How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully everyone is excited for the start of the 2023 NFL football season. What better way to start it off and kick it off than up against your Ohio foe? The Cincinnati Bengals will face off against the Cleveland Browns in week 1 this season. I tell you what, there's no question about it. I mean, all eyes are on DeShaun Watson entering this game. We kind of know what we're going to get out of Joe Burrow. The guy's injured every offseason at this point. It's part of his routine regimen, it appears. But DeShaun Watson, I mean, if you got to throw just the fact we're playing football game on the field now. You got to throw all the off the field stuff onto the side. You can't factor that into how he's going to play. It kind of does factor in how do you play. Thinking about it, you just sat on the couch for a year. But this was a top 5 quarterback for the Houston Texans before everything just went completely sideways and downhill. Sits on the sidelines. He doesn't play for a year. And then what, right? He comes back after being suspended. He doesn't look sharp. He doesn't look sharp at all. Honestly, the way I looked at it, I heard the excuses out the door of why, he ain't played in so long. Okay. Joe Burrow tears an ACL. He didn't come back looking that bad. Tom Brady did the same thing. He didn't come back looking that bad. And they were injured. This guy was not hurt. When you miss that sort of time, and you come back looking as bad as DeShaun Watson is, I'm really concerned as a Browns fan. Really concerned. I'm not a Browns fan, but if I was, I'm just saying I'm really concerned because that just means that's a shot at his work ethic. There ain't no reason to be having that sort of accuracy issues. Maybe it takes time to get the on-field awareness back, but to be as bad accurately as he was, it tells me he wasn't preparing. He wasn't out there practicing, keeping himself in shape, and that's a concern. Nonetheless, though, we're hearing a lot of talk this offseason that, he's got a full offseason to prepare now. He could be a better player this season, and he very well could be. I just thought that was 2 things you got to keep in mind. Once a top 5 quarterback, looked like you just gave up there for a little while, but I mean, he's under contract for a while in Cleveland. He had an whole offseason to really prepare, and he still has a team in Cleveland where it's still the best team he's played for in his career, really. Where you can say, hey, if this guy plays like he did in Houston, he really can bring Cleveland places. And if you're Cleveland, that's what you're believing is going to happen with this guy. Yeah, it was an ugly 6 games. Even the last game against Pittsburgh last year, it just didn't look like his accuracy wasn't there. It just didn't feel like he had a feel for the speed of the game. Even 6 games in. First couple games, all right, but 6 games in, we've seen him start making some better passes. It looked like he was making some nice sideline passes and passes down the seam. He was doing better there. But ultimately, how DeShaun Watson plays this season is going to have a big impact on this Cleveland Browns team. And so far, you look at the preseason, he had that one drive he played, made 3 completions, ran the ball the other 3 times. And again, I don't want to make this a bash on DeShaun Watson video, but it's a lot you have to take in to start the week. He threw 3 dinky little passes to the running back, and one was a little 5-yard dump off. The other 3 times he dropped back, couldn't find an open man. He had a scramble. To me, again, that tells me he's still not fully there. I mean, 50% of the time you couldn't find the open man in preseason. I am a little bit worried about that. Needless to say, though, his pocket presence, it was improving. He had the ability to go up there, scramble, find his way out, get some yardage out of it. You got to give the guy the props there. We'll see on that front. I think what Cleveland needs against the Bengals, honestly, is a game manager. That's it. I don't think DeShaun Watson can cost or win Cleveland. He can. DeShaun Watson by a mile can win Cleveland this football game. He's got those abilities. But I don't think he needs to win the football game. This is a Cleveland Browns team that has flat out dominated Joe Burrow and company. Burrow's beat him 1 time in his career. Now it's just last season. Cleveland's had their number. Cleveland has had the game plan to take down the Cincinnati Bengals year in and year out. Baker Mayfield came in looking like an MVP Hall of Famer. Game in and game out for this Cleveland Browns team against the Cincinnati Bengals. You have to give that Cleveland Browns coaching staff all the credit in the world for the way they've game planned to beat this Cincinnati Bengals team. You look at Nick Chubb. In my opinion, best pure running back in the league. Stud of a player. Tough to bring down. Strong as frickin' heck. Bengals have a hard time stopping him, as we can expect. He's at 120 plus yards on the ground in 3 of the last 5 games against the Bengals. Now, the one game the Bengals have won, he had 2.4 yards per carry. Not a coincidence. Force the Browns into down and distances. Make DeShaun Watson sit back there for a little bit, find the open man, and make him beat you. And that's going to be the game plan, I think, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, because that has been the big difficult issue here for the Bengals. Really, it's been stopping the Cleveland Browns offensively. So if they can find a way to do that week one, I mean, they're going to be all right. You look at the football, or other side of the football, and what concerns me about the Cincinnati Bengals, we go into this season. As much as it feels like, hey, you're going to catch DeShaun Watson at the right time here, I will say that. I do think the guy's a competitor. The guy, again, he was a top 5. I can't say enough. He was a top 5 quarterback in this league. You have to have every reason to believe he's going to figure things out. Do I think he figures it out week 1? I don't think so, no. Maybe week 6, week 7, he's starting to look like prime DeShaun Watson. Very, very possible. But I think there's going to be that, the learning curve, the adjusting curve, the really getting back in the swing of things still happening for this guy for the first couple weeks, which says, hey, Bengals catch a break here. Great time to draw the Browns because they're going to be they stay healthy. They reach their potential. They're going to be a scary team this season. Great time to draw them. You go to the Bengals, though. The Bengals, for the second straight season, decided not to play their starters in the preseason. Now, last season, when they did not do that, you could see the rush. You could see they were kind of slow out the gates. They started 0-2 in a season. There was a lot of worry. There was like, is it the Super Bowl hangover? And could have been a factor of a couple things. First of all, they was playing a really good Pittsburgh Steelers defense to start the season. Then they go out against Dallas. Dallas not a, walk in the park by any stretch of the imagination. Very good football team. But we'll see. The Bengals aren't the only team to bench their starters throughout the preseason. But that does, for me, it's a little concerning sometimes just for the fact that, you can practice, you can drill, and you can scrimmage all you want. But you don't really, I feel like you don't ever truly get the feel of the speed of the game and the action that you do in a live play game. Of course, again, they simulate that in practice. So we'll see what happens. I'm not a professional football player. I'm just a guy that talks behind a screen. So could be completely wrong there. We'll see. That could have just been last season. Bengals figure out this season. Nonetheless, Bengals ended this season with a revamped offensive line once again. You're going to have Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle. He's going to be new there. You're going to have Jonah Williams at right tackle. He's going to be shuffled there. He's played left tackle for the Bengals for years now. He's going to go to the right tackle position. So there's going to be, again, a little bit of time you would expect to develop a little continuity. And when you have 2 fresh on the team, obviously Orlando Brown Jr. very freaking good at left tackle. Jonah Williams, he had a lot of sacks last season, but he's, again, you move him to right tackle. He's more than capable. You got to look past last season for Jonah Williams. He's been a really good right tackle or left tackle for the Bengals. So, you give those guys time to figure things out. The problem is you're trying to give these guys a little bit of time to get some continuity, and you're going up against one of the best pass rushers, and to some arguably the best pass rusher on the defensive line in the league in Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett has feasted against the Cincinnati Bengals in the last recent years. Kind of what he does against every team, though, because again, that's what he does. That's what Myles Garrett does. It's a heck of a freaking player back there. Obviously, there's going to be some opportunities, and as we know, there's one thing you can do to try to slow down Myles Garrett and company. That's pick up some yards on the ground. And hey, Joe Mixon has actually fared very well against the Cleveland Browns in his career, averaging 4.9 yards per carry. So again, the Bengals can get the 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. I think there's a very, very good chance they win this football game. I mean, you're going to 2nd and 9, 3rd and 8 consistently against this pass rush. Beginning of the season, offensive line still gelling. It could be another one of those Cleveland Browns games where Joe Burrow gets sacked 4 or 5 times in his football game, and they got to try to put up points, and it's a little bit difficult with sluggish shot to the gate. We'll see. Here's what was kind of interesting to me, though. We always talk about home field advantage. How much does it matter? Bengals going to go into Cleveland this week. And you look at Joe Mixon's stats, 4.9 yards per carry on average through his career against Cleveland, in Cleveland, at Cleveland, 3.9 yards per carry on the ground, which I thought, you know what, let's dig a little deeper into it. Is there something to be said about this matchup? T. Higgins at Cleveland averages 42 yards per game. Jamar Chase at Cleveland averages 26 yards. Now, Jamar Chase only played 1 game, but they clamped him down for 26 yards in that game. Again, we talked about that formula. You're getting 2nd and 3rd and longs, and these DBs, this secondary, this pass rush of Cleveland that has been oh so talented and oh so good, has time to get to the quarterback and has time to lock these guys down. It can be a tough sledding game for Joe Burrow and company. All that being said, though, again, if this offensive line comes out there and plays well, last game the Bengals played against the Browns, Burrow was sacked 1 time. He's been sacked against the Browns in his career. No coincidence they win a football game. If they can sit there and hold that protection against the Browns, give Joe Burrow some time to work. He's going to pick them apart. I think Joe Burrow picks up. I don't think Joe Burrow loses a game all season where they sack him once or fewer this season. I really don't. He's just that good of a quarterback if he has time to throw the football. And when you have the weapons of Chase, you have the weapons of Higgins, a new weapon down the middle in Irv Smith. Bengals like to use that tight end against the Browns. I think he sees a lot of action in this game. We'll see how the pass protection goes. Looks like Chris Evans trying to work his way in there as that man on third down. Bengals having some, young guys playing really well here in the preseason stand. Now we'll see how that transitions to the regular season. Ultimately, we look at the secondaries of these two teams. I think, the Browns, this is a team that they really, at this point in time, a lot of their good players, a lot of their veterans, they spent some years together. They got that continuity. They got a little bit of chemistry going on. I think they come into this season ready to play. The Bengals defense, on the other hand, a brand new secondary. Two fresh safeties back there is, again, what kind of pass rush is the Bengals going to get on this Cleveland Browns quarterback? Something they have a hard time doing in the past, understandably so, because Cleveland offensive line has been historically really good these past few seasons. And you give that quarterback some time to throw the football. You give him time to release that football down the field with two young safeties back there, a couple of, former backup, if you will, call him a veteran starter, and then you have a young guy in Dax Hill or another guy in Jordan Battle who'll probably see some snaps as well that has not seen a lot of reps back there. You wonder if DeShaun Watson exploits that. There's a good chance early in the season if it happens to this secondary and these young guys. A lot of talent on this secondary still. Athletic guys, playmakers. I'm excited to see what they can do. But again, early in the season, if there's ever a chance for the flaws to stick out and the learning moments to start, it's early in the season. And overall, I'm a huge freaking Bengals fan, and it's hard to take the bias out of things sometimes. We try to be level-headed, though, and you go up and down this script, and there's a lot of numbers that favor the Cleveland Browns in this one. Honestly, ultimately, what I think this game comes down to is it really does DeShaun Watson. We said it before. DeShaun Watson, there's going to be a lot of games this season. He needs to be DeShaun Watson of old. He needs to be prime MVP caliber DeShaun Watson, and he more than likely can be and probably will be. Right now, we don't need that. Or Cleveland don't need that. They don't need him to overdo it. They don't need him to overcompensate. They don't need to push things, force things. You don't need to make them bad interceptions and bad throws. We've seen a couple of them last season. Again, those got to be cleaned up. I think DeShaun Watson has the ability to lose this football game for the Cleveland Browns. I don't think he needs to win this football game, though. I think he needs to be drop into that more of a game manager role, make the plays when you need to, make a couple plays here and there when you need to, rely on that run game, that oh-so-good run game at home, and I think they take care of the Bengals. I do. I think it's tough for the Bengals. You don't want to start 0-1, but if there's one team that's been the Bengals kryptonite over the past couple of seasons, it's been the Cleveland Browns. And I think you gotta say it? Do I gotta say it? Do I have to say it? I want to say it. I want to say it. Can't say it about the division rival. I think the Browns win this one. I think the Browns win this one 27-23. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. We'll see. It's going to be a great matchup, though. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what these young guys and this Bengals football team can do. It'll be interesting to see if, DeShaun Watson, this Cleveland Browns offense, they can take that next step. Because, again, they're going to be a scary football team if DeShaun Watson gets back on track. We'll see. Love to get his thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.